My ex-wife revealed her pregnancy to my family, trying to pass someone else's baby off as mine. I sent them my medical records, which show that I've been sterile since I was a youngster. Hi, Reddit. I'm Noah, a 34-year-old man. Before she told me, my wife told the whole family that I got her pregnant. All in my family called me a deadbeat parent, but guess what? I'm sterile. When she dropped the bomb, there were 63 family members in the group chat. Her parents, my parents, her grandma, who only ever posts prayer requests and pictures of her garden, and aunts, uncles, and cousins on all sides of the family. Everyone we'd ever had a Christmas meal with was there when she set off the fuse on my life. The message came in at 7:40 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was eating leftover Chinese food at the one-bedroom apartment I'd been renting since we split up 2 months before. We were married for 3 years and then split for 2 months. We haven't talked to each other since then, save through attorneys who are fighting over who gets the furniture. And she tells everyone we know that she's pregnant before she ever talks to me about it. The message itself was made. You could tell she had put in a lot of work. I have some news to share. I'm having a baby. I know this isn't the best time, given everything that's happened, but I think every child is a gift. As I get ready to be a single mother, I'm seeking for prayers and help during this hard time. The dad knows who he is. Before I could finish reading it, my phone blew up. Her mother called first, crying, and asked if it was true and why she had to find out this way. Then my mom, who was bewildered and upset, asked what was going on. Then her sister, then my brother, and then individuals I hadn't talked to in years all of a sudden had things to say about what type of man I was. I sat in my kitchen and watched alerts pile up, Lane get cold, and my stomach drop. Not precisely panic, but something worse. That feeling when you know what's going on yet can't do anything to stop it. Over the next hour, the discussion went crazy. Her family gave her heart emoticons, prayers, and pledges to help her. My family sent me texts that didn't make sense and asked for further information. A cousin of someone tweeted a Bible text regarding fathers. Her grandma, who could hardly use her phone on a good day, somehow managed to write a long message about gratitude, forgiveness, and how she was praying for everyone. No one in that chat knew this. What my wife didn't know, and what I'd never told anyone as an adult, since it's not something you talk about at dinner. I was 12 years old when I found out I had testicular cancer. I informed my parents something didn't seem right down there, so they caught it early. Mom assumed it was a hernia, took me to the doctor without expecting anything. 2 days later, I was at the Phoenix Children's Hospital's oncologist's office. A week later, surgery. Then came 6 months of chemotherapy. Twice I lost my hair. Lost 25 pounds from a body that didn't have much to lose. Most of 7th grade, I was either in the hospital or too sick to leave the house. At first, friends came over, but they stopped when they saw that I wasn't getting well on any schedule they understood. No one knew what to say to the boy who might be dying. I missed basketball tryouts, school dances, and all the other usual things that felt so important to me at the time. Adults would stare at me like they weren't sure I was going to make it, and I became used to it. Teachers being especially nice. I beat it when my relatives brought casseroles. I wouldn't be writing this if I hadn't. Doctors believe it probably won't happen again, and it hasn't happened in more than 20 years. I was lucky with the timing and the type, but the therapy ruined my ability to have children. When I was 15, the doctor explained it to me during a follow-up. The chemotherapy medications stopped my body from making sperm. The medical term for Osperia is permanent. I had 2 more tests throughout the years just to be sure. Once when I was 20 and in a serious relationship. One day when I was 26 and having a standard physical. The same thing happened both times. Count of 0. I never told my wife. We got married quickly, maybe too quickly. After dating for only 8 months, the kid talk never came up seriously before things started to go wrong for other reasons. Things like money troubles and her family being too involved are what usually ends marriages. I thought I would inform her at some time if we ever got to the point of trying to have a baby. We never did. It didn't seem to matter anymore by the time everyone knew the marriage was finished. Now it was very important. All night long, messages kept coming in. Her aunt wrote a long paragraph on family values and being responsible. Her relative put up another Bible scripture about dads who leave their kids. Someone I didn't know sent me a crying emoji about the innocent infant who was stuck in the middle of adult strife. By 9 p.m. I lost it. I did something dumb that I'd regret for weeks. I typed a response right into the group chat. Did not think things through. I didn't ask my brother for help. I didn't talk to my lawyer. Just acting like an idiot who thought facts would matter to those who had already made up their opinions. I can't be the dad. Because of cancer treatment, I've been medically sterile since I was 12. I have records that go back to my teenage years. I don't know what's going on, but that baby isn't mine and can't be mine. I sent it before I could persuade myself out of it. For 30 seconds, chat was completely quiet. That half hour felt like an hour. Then the answers began to come in. This is a new low for you, Mom. Using your illness as a child as an excuse to not complete your duty. I'm praying for your soul. Her dad. Men who make excuses instead of taking action aren't men at all. Her cousin. Wow. I can't believe what I'm reading. Then my aunt, who I felt would listen to me, came over. I think you should talk to a professional, sweetie. This isn't a good way to act. I had given her exactly what she needed in my attempt to defend myself with the truth. I wasn't just a loser who deserted his pregnant wife anymore. I was so desperate to get away that I was making up claims about cancer. I was not mentally stable. I needed help from a professional. The phone rang. What is wrong with you, Mom? You can't talk like that in front of everyone. That is not how you deal with this, no matter what. Mom, it is true. I have the files. Since the chemo, I haven't been able to get pregnant. So why haven't you told anyone? Why didn't you inform her before you were married? Why is this the first time any of us have heard about it? I didn't know what to say. For more than 20 years, I've kept quiet. Because I was ashamed. Because I didn't know how to bring it up and kept waiting for the proper time. Which never came. She was correct. I had made things worse. The next 3 days taught me how quickly a lie can become an accepted truth when you've already lost control of the narrative. My remark in the group chat didn't make me doubt her allegations. People felt bad for her and hated me. By Wednesday morning, the story was set in stone. Husband who is desperate makes up a lie about having cancer to avoid taking care of his pregnant wife. Her mother had taken a copy of my message and sent it to at least 2 other family group chats, along with comments on how sad it was that I would use my childhood sickness as an excuse for being a coward. My wife contacted my mother straight on Wednesday morning. Later, I heard about it. We talked through tears about how worried she was about the pregnancy, how wounded she was by what I said in front of everyone, and how little sleep she had gotten since reading it. She stated she was really worried about me, and that my message exhibited indicators of someone who wasn't mentally well and might need professional help. I asked the family if they might help me get any form of help. Mom called me shortly after we talked. Did you leave your wife while she was pregnant? I don't want to hear about yesterday night's chat performance. I want to know the true facts. Mom, the part about being sterile is true. I have medical records that go back to when I was 15. 3 tests over the years. Every time the same thing happens. Count to 0. So why didn't you tell anyone? Why didn't you inform her before you were married? Why is this the first time I've heard that my son can't have kids? I didn't have a better answer than what you have heard. I kept it a secret, but now it was hurting me in public. Please don't talk to anyone else till I sort this out. People who know you, even your own family, think you're a liar and a coward right now. Please figure it out quickly. By Thursday, friends of both sides were sending SMS to people who weren't taking sides that were clearly taking sides. 2 college guys pretty much copied and pasted the same message. A couple we used to go out with on double dates stopped answering. Her version got around because she told everyone who would listen and because my poor attempt to communicate the truth backfired. No one believed me, therefore my version didn't spread. I had placed the truth right in the family group chat, but it was quickly turned into proof that I was losing my hold on reality. Everything I said only made it more clear that I was going crazy. If you've been running in the same circles for years in Phoenix, word gets around quickly. Church, community, and neighborhood ties, as well as job networks that overlap, make it seem like everyone knows everyone else's business through 2 or 3 degrees of separation. All the small-town things that make it hard to keep secrets were now working against me. Things went weird at the grocery store. I bumped into her aunt at the Fries on Baseline, and she glared at me like I had insulted her family before turning and walking the other way down the aisle without saying a word. The gym was also uncomfortable. A guy I had seen on the bench press for years suddenly had shoulder problems every time I needed aid. Made excuses every time I asked. I started going to classes in the early morning when no one from our typical group was there. There was no way they could go to church. Her family had been members there for 2 generations, and by now, half of the people in the church had undoubtedly seen the screenshots. I wasn't going to go through a service with folks who believed I was the kind of guy who would lie about having cancer to avoid being a father. My apartment building even seemed different. When I picked up a package from the office one afternoon, the manager gave me a look that made me wonder if she had heard something specific, or if I was just getting paranoid about everyone. Most likely both. On Friday afternoon, her dad sent me a text. He sent a written message instead of a voicemail so there would be a lasting record of what he said. He said he had always thought of me as family, but that true men accept responsibility for what they do no matter what. He said he was praying that I might find the strength to do the right thing before it was too late. He said that I was putting his daughter through too much at a time when she was very vulnerable. I wrote 3 different answers and then deleted them all. There was nothing I could say that would change his view without first verifying the medical situation. And I didn't have that proof in any way that would have made a difference. On Friday night, her mom wrote in the family conversation a long note about how hard it was for her daughter to be a single mother-to-be and how the whole family needed to help her out right now. She said that baby supplies were getting pricey and that being a single mother was hard on her finances even with help from family. Said she was starting a fund to help with costs and that any small bit would help. Included her Venmo handle and said they had already received more than $400 in donations. They were actively raising money off the falsehood, receiving real money from family, friends, and maybe even strangers who saw shared messages. All of these people thought they were supporting a pregnant woman who had been left alone and whose husband had a mental breakdown. Late Friday night, my brother sent me an SMS. This is the first time I've heard from him since the explosion. He said he really didn't know what to believe, but that our parents were having a hard time with all of this. Said that mom had been crying on and off for days. Dad didn't talk much, which was never a good indication with him. He said I should come over for supper on Sunday and try to explain things in person, away from the group chat. I told them I'd think about it. I didn't go. I stayed quiet every day. She talked about what happened to fill the silence. But every time I tried to say something, things got worse. I was falling behind and didn't know how to get back on track. She sent me a text on Saturday morning. First time talking to each other after the bomb went off. Carefully composed long message. She said she understood why I was furious about everything. Things got out of hand in ways that neither of us wanted. She didn't want to struggle with lawyers and family. We could talk if we met, like grown-ups, just the 2 of us. Find a way to move on that didn't hurt anyone. There was a coffee shop close to our old residence. I should have kept it with lawyers. No, I didn't. I agreed. I thought that the group chat incident happened because I acted without having any proof ready. Maybe she'd believe me if I could sit down with her and gently explain the medical condition in person. Perhaps she stopped pretending. She might have really been confused about who the father was. It's possible that she had been with someone else and thought I was the father because of some messed up math about the timeline. Or maybe if I made the facts clear enough, she'd realize what was really going on and we could work things out without having to go to family court and put my medical history on a public record for anybody to see. It's worth a try. I thought I was wrong. When I got there, the coffee shop was full. She was already sitting at a little table at the front window, where everyone strolling by could see us easily. She wanted to be noticed when she looked back. The conversation began well. She said she wanted what was best for the baby no matter what occurred between us, that we could still co-parent well even if the marriage was over, and that she understood I might need time to think about everything. She leaned closer and asked the question she had come to ask. Are you still going to say that you aren't the father? I'm not denying anything, even after what you stated in the discussion. I am sterile and I can show you proof with paperwork and a current test. You keep saying that, but you never told me that while we were married. You never told anyone, and now it's suddenly useful. It's the truth. I'll show you the records if you want. She shook her head slowly. The look on his face changed to one that seemed like real sadness. I really hoped you would come here ready to be honest with me and deal with this like a man instead of hiding behind stories. I guess I was wrong about what kind of person you are. She got up, took her bag, told me she would pray for me, and left the coffee shop. I was still sitting there trying to figure out what had just happened. I looked at my phone in the parking lot 20 minutes later. She had already texted her mom, who had already sent it to the family chat. He is continuing telling the same story. He lied to my face in front of other people and looked me in the eye. I gave him grace, but he flung it back at me. I'm heartbroken. I thought I could talk to her as I walked in. I left and made things worse for the second time in 4 days. On Monday morning, I was in a family lawyer's office in Tempe talking about the hardest month of my life. A man named Garrett, in his early 60s, with worn eyes from witnessing families fight over money and kids for years. He didn't say anything while he listened to everything. The group chat announcement, my dumb, impulsive answer, the coffee shop trap, the fundraising effort, everything. He put down his pen and asked the one question that really mattered when I was done. When did you last have a fertility test? 8 years ago, when I was 26 years old. That is a problem. Men say they're infertile all the time in court. Half of them are wrong or lying. There have been times when a guy swore he had a vasectomy. Then DNA came back and showed that he was the father after all. We need a current medical verification from an expert who can testify if we are going to challenge this. Your childhood records are a good place to start. But her lawyer will say that things may have altered over the years. He pushed a piece of paper across the desk. Based on the pregnancy and my supposed abandonment, her lawyer had already filed a motion for temporary spousal support. The filing made me sound crazy and unstable. A man who is coming up with more and more desperate medical justifications to avoid being a father. In 3 weeks, there will be a hearing. If we don't have proof by that date, we'll have to go to court with your word against hers. And from what you've told me about the group chat and everything else, no one really believes what you say right now. The next few days were a crash tutorial in how slowly medical bureaucracy moves when you need it to move quickly. My first oncologist stopped working years ago. A bigger medical group with offices all across the valley took over his practice. They had my old records someplace in their archive system, but I had to fill out papers, get things notarized, and wait for 2 weeks for the copies to be processed, which had nothing to do with my court calendar. The woman on the phone seemed like she really felt bad when she told me the timeline, but it didn't assist me. Finding a urologist who could do new tests was a whole other problem. I called the first office and was told that new patients had to wait 5 weeks. Not enough time. The second wanted $800 up advance since they didn't accept my insurance and wouldn't talk about it. Third, I might be able to see me on Thursday, but I required a recommendation from my primary care doctor first. This meant that I had to make another appointment before I could even get to the one that counted. It seems like the whole system was meant to make things take longer. On Wednesday afternoon, I told my doctor the short story and asked for an urgent referral for reproductive tests. He didn't know what to think of it, but he went with it. Why didn't you bring up the childhood cancer on your last visits? It never came up when I had sinus infections or checked my blood pressure. He sent in the referral. Results will be available in 5 to 7 business days. In the meantime, her lawyer issued a letter asking for an urgent answer to the support motion. My lawyer asked for a continuance because I still needed to see a doctor. The judge gave us 10 more days, but made it obvious that we couldn't wait any longer. I was alone in my flat on Thursday night, going over the worst things that could happen. If the test results came out late or there was some kind of administrative mistake, I would have nothing but my allegations against hers going into that hearing. The group chat catastrophe and the coffee shop setup had already ruined my reputation in public. There was family support, religious backing, and a serious money-raising campaign behind hers. The proof was in my own body. It was starting to seem like a coin flip to get it written down and into court before she buried me. On Tuesday, the 8th day, the results came back. Azoospermia showed that there were no healthy sperm, which is what happens when chemotherapy damages sperm. The urologist wrote it down and stated he could testify in court if necessary. The lawyer said that was exactly what we required, but it took 8 days to acquire those results, which was not quiet. Someone had called my boss the Thursday before. I am a project engineer for a commercial electrical contractor. They've been in business for 20 years and have a good reputation. The kind of company that bids on government contracts, school renovations, and hospital expansions. These are jobs where clients really care about who is in their buildings. According to our receptionist, the caller was a woman who was worried about my personal condition and inquired whether the company knew that I was dealing with a domestic issue that could impair my reliability and stability. She used those exact terms, reliability and stability, as if she had rehearsed them before. She didn't leave a name or a phone number. On Friday afternoon, my supervisor called me into his office. We shut the door behind us. I'm not trying to get into your personal life, but I got an odd call this morning from someone who wanted to know how stable you are. She said she was a worried family member. Is there something I should know about? Going through a hard breakup. My wife is lying about me, taking care of it with lawyers. He nodded slowly. Thank you for being honest with me. Company policy says we shouldn't become involved in workers' personal lives, but if this keeps happening at work, we'll need to talk about it again. We have contracts with companies that require the staff we send to their sites to be reliable. A warning came in one call. More calls would be a problem for me at work. That same week, my landlord left me a voicemail saying that someone had complained about the noise coming from my unit. Someone who didn't live in my building said I was having loud fights all the time and bothering other people who lived there. I had just been there for 2 months and had only said hello to my neighbors in the corridor. I called him back and told him that I was going through a messy divorce and that the complaint was most likely made by someone who knew my ex-wife. He said he trusted me, but he had to write down everything that happened, no matter what he thought. Said we'd have to talk about my lease issue if further complaints came in. 2 days later, another complaint came in. This one said I had left trash in the hallway and had been rude to a neighbor who inquired about it. Total trash. I hadn't talked to anyone in that corridor other than to say good morning. She was going for every element of my life that she could get to, leaving behind a paper trail that made me look unstable and hard to deal with. If this led to a long legal battle, she could use my employer's concerns and complaints about my housing as proof that I was barely holding it together. Then, on Sunday night at 7 o'clock, her sister came over and knocked on my door without warning. I almost didn't answer, but she looked uneasy through the peephole and kept looking over her shoulder like she didn't want anyone to see her there. I let myself go. She went inside fast. Can't stay for long. Not visible here. I know my sister is doing something wrong, though. Before we go any farther, I need to tell you something. Go ahead. She knows who the father is. She knows who it is and has always known. Craig is his name. He is her boss at the insurance company where she works. For about a year now, they've been sleeping together. 2 months ago, I heard a phone call in which she was crying to him about being pregnant, and he told her to keep it hidden because his wife must not find out. Craig Holloway is a senior claims manager. He is married and has 2 kids. The guy my wife had mentioned in passing a dozen times in the last year when she talked about work. People often said nice things about him, like how brilliant he was, how he truly understood the company, how he was the only good boss in her whole department, and how he always supported her. That makes a lot more sense now that I think about it. Why are you saying this to me? Because she's ready to ruin an innocent man's life over a falsehood, and I can't be a part of it anymore. I won't testify or speak out in public. It would utterly break up my family. But you have the right to know the truth so you can keep yourself safe. She left half a minute later. After that night, I never heard from her again. She didn't come to console or help me. She arrived to give me a grenade, pulled the pin, and then vanished before anyone knew she was there. I notified my lawyer about Craig on Monday morning. He said, "Be careful how we use it. We can't just throw names around without proof." But we could note in our court response that there might be another potential father and ask for genetic testing before anyone decides who pays what. Filing didn't name Craig directly, just said there was reason to believe someone else could be the father and ask the court to figure out paternity before making any decisions about my responsibility. This is a rather normal thing to do in instances that are contested. That seems to have been enough to set everything off. Craig's wife found out in less than 2 days. Not from our filing, which was still going through the system. She found out because my wife freaked out when she realized the test was coming and there was no way to avoid it. I heard from a lot of different individuals later that my wife called Craig as soon as she found out about the testing request. Things became hot very quickly. Craig started to backpedal aggressively. Maybe the schedule doesn't work out. There might be someone else you haven't told me about. Before we say anything else, we should both talk to lawyers. She didn't like that. That night, she sent him a lot of texts that were everything but subtle. You know whose baby this is. You can't just walk away from this now. I wrote down every time we were together. For months, Craig's wife had been suspicious. Things that didn't make sense. Long nights at work that never seemed to get anything done. He made phone calls from another room. She had been waiting for a reason to look at his phone. That night, she found one. I checked it while he was in the shower since I kept hearing it buzz. Found everything. The talk that day that made everyone panic. Messages from before that she didn't know about well enough to back up what she had been thinking. That night, people who lived next door could hear the screaming through the walls. The next morning, his wife hired a lawyer to get a divorce. Craig used the old trick of saying that nothing physical transpired, only emotional support that got out of hand. It took about 5 minutes for her to finish the narrative once she started asking precise questions about dates, locations, and why a coworker would be texting him about a pregnancy if nothing was going on. Craig had packed a bag and was staying at a hotel off the 101 at the end of the week. People reported that his wife engaged a tough family law lawyer from Scottsdale who was known for going after unfaithful husbands hard. Their boss heard about it through the usual means. Someone who knew someone who heard the wife speak about the whole thing. HR started a formal investigation into possible policy violations. The boss is having sex with a direct report. Pregnancy raises issues about whether the relationship affected any hiring decisions or performance appraisals. Questions concerning whether company resources were used to help with anything wrong. My wife was put on administrative leave while the investigation was going on. That following day, Craig was put on leave. They both didn't see that coming. It seems that the contribution issue became a disaster on its own. Several people from her department had sent money to the baby fund after she told them how she had been left by her mentally ill spouse. People gave $20, $50, or more because they felt horrible for a pregnant coworker who was having a hard time. When the real tale started to spread via the office gossip network, a few of them wanted their money back. That led to complaints from HR about using company communication channels for personal fundraising and making the workplace uncomfortable by tricking coworkers into giving money under false pretenses. Her lawyer, on the other hand, issued a letter proposing settling. A completely distinct tone from everything else. No more pushy requests for help and what I owed her. Stop talking about my mental instability or making up medical stories. Just say that you want to find a fair solution that doesn't need extra court dates and public testimony. She wanted to make a deal and act like the last 3 months never occurred. I told my lawyer to write reply in one sentence. We are excited about the paternity test. 2 weeks later, the exam took place. The whole time, there was a chain of custody that was legally documented and supervised by the court. There is no way for anyone to argue with the results or say that something got dirty or broken. I wasn't the dad. No way. She didn't say anything when my medical papers were used as evidence. Craig was told to give a sample. His lawyer informed him that saying no would simply make things worse and that the court might just assume he was the father anyhow. The results came back 10 days later and confirmed what everyone had thought by that point. He was the real father. Overnight, her whole case against me fell apart. The support motion was dropped right away. My lawyer's calls to her lawyer ceased being answered. We could have gone after her for everything she did to me over those months. The false complaints about my housing, the calls to my boss, and the slander. My lawyer suggested we probably had a good chance of getting damages. But that would have meant additional months in court, more legal bills, and more of my time and energy spent dealing with her instead of going on with my life. I thought about it for a few days and did the math on how much it would cost to go to court and how much I might be able to get back. I chose to leave instead of getting retribution or money. The last hearing for the divorce was on a Thursday in late March. It was a nice spring day in Phoenix with clear skies and a light breeze. By that time, I'd been to the courts enough times that the security guards knew who I was. That day, the divorce was finalized, although the paternity issue had already been settled weeks before. This hearing was merely for papers. I still have my retirement accounts. She kept the house, but she had to refinance within 90 days to take my name off the mortgage. Clean break. There are no kids, no ongoing financial ties, and no legal need to ever talk to one another again. It took 15 minutes for the hearing to end. The judge said that both sides had agreed to the terms. The papers were signed. The marriage is over. I strolled into the corridor, thinking I would go directly to the elevator and get on with my day. She was standing by the water fountain close to the restrooms. Not by chance, but on purpose, just where I'd have to go past her to get to the elevators. I recognized that look on her face right away. The way she looked at people when she desired something from them. We've seen it 100 times since we were married. I've seen her use it on her parents, co-workers, strangers, and people in line at the store. I know things became bad between us. Both sides made mistakes. I never wanted things to turn out this way. When things calm down and feelings aren't so strong, maybe we could sit down like adults and talk about everything that went wrong. I didn't say anything as she talked. She tilted her head when she was done. Do you have something to say? I thought about all the things I could say to her. The ruined ties with relatives and friends I'd known for a long time. The stressful when someone calls my boss and asks about my stability. I could have gotten rid of the whole list, all of it. But none of it would mean anything to her. She was only checking to see if she could still control me. Made it short. Look at your Venmo. I understand that requests for refunds are stacking up. I walked past her without waiting for her to answer. Pushed the button for the elevator. I didn't hear what she said behind me. The doors opened. I went inside. That was the last time I ever saw her or talked to her. 3 months later, things had mostly settled down. Things started to appear more like normal again. In June, Craig's divorce was final. He lost the house in the settlement, and his wife got to keep it and have primary custody of their kids. He had to pay child support for his 2 kids and the new one, which took up a big part of his income. He also lost his job after HR finished their inquiry and uncovered proof that he had been sending her good performance assessments. She didn't really earn. I ended up working for a smaller insurance company across town. Less money, a worse title, and no management duties. He basically had to start over in his 40s with 3 kids to take care of. In July, my ex moved to Tucson after her reputation as a professional in Phoenix went up in flames. Once the tale got out, no one in her field would touch her. In May, her parents learned the whole truth about the affair and everything else. I heard from family that her father entirely cut her off. Her mother still phoned her from time to time, but their relationship was very much over. The grandma, who had asked for prayers in the family group chat, was evidently heartbroken when she found out what her granddaughter had really done. Eventually, the Venmo situation worked itself out. After a lot of people complained loudly, most of the donors got their money back. Some folks didn't bother to chase after little sums. Without any public explanation or apology, her mother simply shut down the page for soliciting money. They had raised almost $1,100 before everything fell apart. Most of it was sent back in one manner or another. A few weeks after the last hearing, my brother contacted. I need to say I'm sorry. I should have asked you more questions before I thought the worst of you. It was hard to understand what was going on. Everyone got tricked. I'm not keeping it. Once all the ruckus from outside stopped, work went back to usual. I kept coming back. People eventually found other things to talk about, and I became old news. The project I was worried about losing during all the upheaval actually got pushed back to the end of the year. Still living in the 1-bedroom apartment. The lease lasts until December. After that, I'm going to look at condos on the east side of the valley. There is no history connected to any room. There are no memories that I didn't place there myself. I rebuilt things with my parents over a few dinners and one long chat in early April, when I finally told them what I should have told them years before. When I told her everything, Mom sobbed. Dad just nodded and said he wished I'd given it to them sooner. He said he understood why I kept it a secret, but family is supposed to be the people you can tell anything to. They were right about all of it. Not going out with anyone. Not for a while. 3 years with someone who could change into a different person whenever it suited her. If the pattern ever happens again, I need to catch it quickly. But I'm okay. Honestly, better than fine. Guys, we're almost at 1,000 subscribers on this channel. Please think about subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. It truly helps you reach the 1,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.